Namaste, good morning, and welcome to you all. It's me, Bodhraj Gautam, MPhil in English Education, uh, Nepal Open University, roll number 75153142. Today, I'm going to have a short presentation on translation and the trials of the foreign, written by Antoine Berman and translated by Lawrence Venuti. First of all, I am very grateful to my instructors, Mr. Keshav Sigdel and Miss Pratima Patrai, for encouraging for such presentation. My presentation goes like this. First of all, I am going to uh, clarify some important terms for this presentation. Antoine Berman is a French translator, philosopher, historian, and theorist of translation. Lawrence Venuti is an American translation theorist and translation historian. Translation and the Trials of the Foreign is an essay that tries to show the deforming tendencies of act of translation. Berman has borrowed the expression trial of the foreign from Hegel. According to Berman, 1985 to 184, translation is both the trial of the foreign and the trial of the foreign, since it is both aiming to open up the foreign work to us in its utter foreignness and uprooting the foreign work from its own language ground, in a way forcing it to exile. Here we are talking about literary text. So literary texts are so bound to their language, therefore act of translating such text inevitably becomes a manipulation of signifiers which distinguishes them from non-literary text, since, as Berman states, translation of non-literary text is only a semantic transfer. The analytic of translation. Berman examines that the system of textual deformation that operates in every translation and prevents it from being a trial of the foreign, and calls it as the analytic of translation. The analytic sets out to locate several deforming forces, and Berman discusses 12 deforming forces or tendencies, which are as follows: rationalization, clarification, expansion, ennoblement, qualitative impoverishment, quantitative impoverishment, the destruction of rhythms, the destruction of underlying networks of signification, the destruction of linguistic patternings, the destruction of vernacular networks or their exoticization, the destruction of expressions and idioms, the effacement of the superimposition of languages. I am going to continue from qualitative impoverishment. Qualitative impoverishment refers to the replacement of terms, expressions, and figures in the original with the terms, expressions, and figures that lack their sonorous richness or signifying or iconic richness. Next, quantitative impoverishment. Here, quantitative impoverishment refers to lexical loss in translation. Every work in prose presents a certain proliferation of signifiers and signifying chains. Translation contains fewer signifiers than the original, hence there is chance of a loss. Translation sometimes requires addition of articles and relatives and decorative signifiers. Next, the destruction of rhythms. There is rhythm in both prose and poetry. Novel is not less rhythmic than poetry. It comprises the multiplicity of rhythms, but a rhythm is not well maintained in prose, both prose and poetry. Next, the destruction of underlying networks of signification. The literary text contains a hidden dimension, an underlying text, networks of signifiers, where certain signifiers correspond and link up, forming all sorts of networks beneath the surface of the text called the subtext. Signifiers in alone don't have value or meaning, but when they are linked, then they make sense. But translators often break the linkage of signifiers. Next, the destruction of linguistic patterning. Sometimes the systematic nature of the text goes beyond the level of signifiers, metaphors, etc. It extends to the types of sentences. Rationalization, clarification, expansion, etc. destroy the systematic nature of the text by introducing elements that are excluded by its essential system. The translated text is more homogeneous than the original, and it is more incoherent, heterogeneous, and inconsistent. It is a patchwork of different kinds of writing employed by the translator. Next, the destruction of vernacular networks or their exoticization. All great prose is rooted in the vernacular language. The polylogic aim of prose includes a plurality of vernacular elements. Vernacular language is more iconic and physical than the cultivated or standard language. The effacement of vernaculars by replacing verbs by nominal constructions and verbs of action by verbs with substantives and vernacular signifiers may be transposed. The traditional way of preserving vernacular is to exoticize them. Exoticization can take in two forms. First is isolating what does not exist in the original by italicizing it, and the next is rendering a foreign vernacular with the local one, but there is chance of loss of culturality. Next, the destruction of expressions and idioms. Prose uses images, expressions, figures, proverbs, etc., which are derived from the vernacular. Replacement of the terms, use of equivalent expression but not perfect, that is, incomprehensible. Replacing with equivalent terms, idioms, is an attack to the foreign word. The last one, the effacement of superimposition of languages. Every novelist work is characterized by linguistic superimposition. A novel, said Bhakti, assembles a heterology of or diversity of discursive types. Such diversity of voices get lost in translation. The superimposition of language is threatened by translation. Thank you, everyone.